They want to change the fabric of society in a way that they will be in complete control over 100% of our lives. Is that the world that you want to live in? Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Ladies and gentlemen, before I begin, please be careful with scammers. I noticed, and thank you very much to my moderators for taking care of this. You ladies are awesome. I noticed that there was a scammer on the video that I put out yesterday about when I visited the coin shop. Now, whenever you take a look at my thumbnail, if I reply to one of your comments, you'll notice that my thumbnail, along with my name, Alaska Prepper, has a check mark next to it. If it does not, that is not me replying to you. And I would never solicit you in the comments section asking you to invest money on this or to call me or to buy this or that. I would never do that. So please be careful, ladies and gentlemen, and don't get scammed. You work too hard for your money, and it shouldn't go in the pockets of someone that's just trying to steal it from you. Ladies and gentlemen, listen, before I start as well, please take a look at the video that I'm going to put up later on today reviewing the solar generator, right? The Opus solar generator, because there is a giveaway involved. 2 people, all right, from that video are going to win a 600-watt solar generator from Opus. And spoiler alert, it's actually a pretty decent generator, pretty decent solar generator. So go take a look at that video. Right, so let's go ahead and get to the topic of this video. Now, this video may be a little bit broken up because I have a lot of things to talk about. And everything that's going on with this Ukraine and Russia and all this stuff that's been going on, you know, I've said in past videos that I really don't think that Russia wants to go to war. I really don't think so. And I think that our government, all right, now this is my opinion, that they want to go to war. Why? Because they need that next major crisis in order to reach their agenda, in order to make their agenda a reality, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I want to go ahead and give you what I think it is that they're up to, right? I think that this Ukraine thing is really, you know, a lot of smoke. They're trying to put up a lot of smoke, trying to keep you from what's really going on and from what they're really doing in the background. And that is how we prepare. We prepare by looking out into the future, taking a look and seeing what are the probabilities of this happening and this happening so that we can prepare for those things. For any of you that have been in the military, all right, and for those of you that haven't as well, I think that those of you that have served in the military would probably agree with me that when you enter into either basic training or boot camp, depending what service you served, but that when you enter that, one or a few of the reasons why boot camp or basic training exists is, I think that the main reason is it strips down the individual to a blank sheet of paper. They bring you in there and they strip you down. They take all of your rights away from you pretty much, and you pretty much all start out at the exact same playing field. So pretty much you're all even. You're not talked to by your name. You're talked to as by private or soldier or Marine. And when you talk about yourself, you cannot say I. You have to say this soldier or this Marine when you're speaking in relation to who you are, right? You have to say this soldier or this Marine because you are supposed to be broken down to the simplest level, and then they can build you back up to what it is that they want you to be. All right, I can get into all of the things that they want you to be, but the main point that I'm trying to make is that when you enter boot camp, they're trying to equalize the playing field, make sure that you are all the same, that you are not individuals, that you are all the same. Ladies and gentlemen, take a look at history, at our recent history. I'm not talking about 1,000 years ago or even 100 years ago, but just take a look at our recent history, maybe the last 5 decades or so, or my lifetime. All right, I'm a half centurion. So take a look at the last 50 years or so, and take a look at all of the crises that have existed, and then take a look at all of the laws that have been passed for your safety. That, ladies and gentlemen, is what I feel that they are doing. They are stripping us down, or they want to completely strip us down into a blank sheet of paper so that they can build us back up to what they want us to be. Just take a look at what is going on. Take a look at the opposition that governments are imposing upon their people. Take a look at how hard the Canadian government or sectors within the Canadian government are working to shut down the trucker protests. Just take a look at it, ladies and gentlemen. They are doing their damnedest in order to shut down their voice. I mean, they started out by taking away the funds that GoFundMe had in it from donations. They shut that down. And then Give, Send, Go. They ended up getting a whole bunch of donations from Give, Send, Go. They ended up shutting that down. And now they are getting donations in cryptocurrencies. Well, they can try to shut that down. They can try to investigate the wallets that those donations are coming from, but they're not going to be able to find out who they're coming from, and they cannot shut that down. However, ladies and gentlemen, the point is that they're trying to shut down everything that has anything to do with freedom of choice and with freedom of expression. Why? Because they need to keep us under control. They are going to work toward a solution that will give them the agenda that they want. And what is that, ladies and gentlemen? It is that they have 100% control over us, over you, over me. Have 100% control over everything that we do. This is their final solution, ladies and gentlemen, is to have 100% control over us. But how are they going to do this? And what people are not looking at, they're looking at the Ukraine situation, they're looking at the trucker situation in Canada and other parts of the world, here in the US, and you know, all freedom lovers out there are loving this. We're all like, yes, we can do it. You know, we can do this. But what is it that they're really working on in the background? And before we get to that, ladies and gentlemen, let me go ahead and show you a couple of things that I think is very important for you to take a look at and understand. Now, ladies and gentlemen, many of you have probably seen this chart. This is just a chart that shows how the dollar has devalued over the years. And as you can see there, back in 1950, it had probably around 90% of its value from its inception in 1913. But you can see how it's degraded over the year. Now, what's important about this chart in respect to what I'm talking about here on what their agenda is in the end? Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's very important that we understand this because they are running out of time. They are running out of room. If you can see there where I pointed at that top line, that started at around 1980 or so. Between 1980 or so to today, look at how much of the dollar has been devalued. More than 50%. Roughly 55% or so of the dollar has been devalued since 1980. And all we have left is whatever value it had in 1980, we only have about 45% of that value left. When you equate it to the value that it had at the beginning, we have maybe 2% or a little less than 2%. What are they going to do when the dollar has no more value whatsoever? What are they going to do? How are they going to control the people? I want to show you this worksheet that I worked on just to show you exactly how much of your wealth and labor has been stolen from you just during your regular work life. So you see, ladies and gentlemen, right now they want us to concentrate on all of these things. They want us to keep our eyes on the right hand as their left hand is doing what's really, really hurting us as a country and also as a world, which is what? The direct theft of your labor, ladies and gentlemen. And I want to show you exactly how much it is that the government steals from you during your regular work life. Now, I'm assuming that the regular work life is usually around 40 years. Right? Usually a person will start working around when they're 20 years old. Some people start working, you know, their actual work life, their adult work life, when they're 18 because they don't go to college. Some people, they start working when they're about 22 once they're done with college. And they usually work till 62, 65 years old. So around 40 years is what I came up with that your average work life is here in the United States and in probably a lot of other countries in the world. Now, let's say that we stick to the narrative that the government says. They say that, well, inflation averages around 2%. Well, not considering that inflation this last year was, I think, came in at like 7.5% or something like that. But that's neither here nor there. But let's just say that we stick to their narrative. And we're like, well, yeah, we can live with 2% inflation a year. Well, first of all, if you understand exactly what inflation is, then you would be outraged that there would be any inflation whatsoever, right? Inflation is not the price of goods going up. Inflation is the money that is printed out of thin air. Plain and simple. It's as simply as I can put it, right? But let's say that inflation is 2% a year throughout your work life. Well, ladies and gentlemen, take a look at this. I started out with $1. Okay, that was $1 that I put away back when I started working 40 years ago, let's say. All right. And at the end of that year, that dollar was only worth 98 cents because of 2% inflation. All right. So I took that dollar and I put it in the bank. All right. Not earning any interest. People are going to be like, well, AP, you have to understand that you can earn interest on this, that you can invest it. And why should you? Why should you have to do something with the money that you earned in order to maintain its purchasing power? Why should you? That $1 that I started with represents $1's worth of my time and labor. So why should I have to invest it in anything? I should just be able to take that dollar, put it in a coffee can, and 30 or 40 years later, take it back out and go buy that same 2 or 3 or 4 Snickers bar that I was able to buy 40 years ago when I put it in that coffee can. What changed in the amount of labor that you had to endure in order to earn that dollar? Is an hour of your time valued more today than it was valued 40 years ago? I would say that 40 years ago, an hour of your time was probably valued at even more because you were younger. You had more vigor. You were stronger. Yes, today you maybe have more experience or something like that. But what I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen, is that time of your life, is that chunk of your life valued any less today than it was 40 years ago? And if not, then why should you have to give up a portion of the labor that you worked for in order to get that dollar 40 years ago? It has nothing to do with you investing it in anything. A dollar should be a dollar should be a dollar. It should be able to buy you the same or about the same that it did a while back. Probably more. With technology is actually deflationary. Ladies and gentlemen, if you take that $1 and you deduct 2% from it every year for 40 years, you bring it all the way down to 40 years later, and where that dollar had $1 of your time vested in it, you now only have about 45 cents of your time vested in it. That is what inflation does, ladies and gentlemen. It steals your seconds, your minutes, and your hours. And they are running out of time. Because although this formula right here was set for 2% per year, we all know that inflation is a lot higher than 2% per year. And not just recently, but even 5 years ago when they were saying, oh, inflation is only 1.6%. We all know that prices were going up higher than 1.6% or 2%. But just using their numbers, ladies and gentlemen, they are running out of time. They are running out of space. And what are they going to do when they run out of space? How are they going to control the masses? I'm going to tell you right now how they're going to control the masses. It's going to be in one simple way. Now, I've talked about this before, centrally banked digital currency. And here, ladies and gentlemen, they say, while the Federal Reserve has no decision on whether they're going to do a CBDC, they've been exploring it. Right. They've already got it made, ladies and gentlemen. They've got it made and they're tweaking it in the background so that when they crash this market, this is what people need to realize. This is what people need to prepare for, is that they are going to crash this market. They are going to crash it and they are going to take us to boot camp. They are going to make us all equally poor, ladies and gentlemen. They are going to make us all equally desperate unless you're prepared, unless you know what's coming down the line, and unless you prepare for it now before they do it, because they are going to do it. Right now in the world, there's quadrillions, if not, I would even say a quintillion dollars in circulation in the form of debt. And when I say in the form of debt, I don't mean in physical notes. I mean in digital debt and derivatives. It gets pretty complicated. But trust me when I say that there is not enough existing dollars in the world to satisfy all of the debt that is out there, ladies and gentlemen. And when the market finally crashes and we have a liquidity problem where there's just not enough dollars to go around, they are going to crash the system because they have no choice. They are going to have to create so many dollars out of thin air that it is going to make the dollars that you hold in your hand today worthless, 100% worthless, just like Zimbabwe, just like Venezuela. It's going to make it worthless. So how do they control the people? With a CBDC, ladies and gentlemen, where they can tell you how much you can spend. They can tell you how much you can save. They can tell you where to spend it and where to save it. And they will use everything at their disposal as far as propagandizing the public, as far as making people think that this is a great thing. I mean, Facebook will be out with CBDC ads everywhere. You can't say honk on Facebook. You can't say the word honk on Facebook, but they will be flushed with ads for CBDC, how great it is, what a great world it's going to produce. And ladies and gentlemen, what that is going to do is it's going to strip us of all of our liberties. This is what people need to be talking about right now. It's the CBDC and the new ESG that they're adopting in banks right now and major institutions, giving you a social credit score that you know nothing about. But you know when you're going to find out what your social credit score is, ladies and gentlemen? They're tallying up your social credit score right now. But you know when you're going to find out? As soon as they come out with a CBDC and they get rid of cash. Once they do this, they own us. They own us unless we're prepared. We have to be prepared for all of this. Because if we're not, it's not just hunger that we will have to worry about. It will be leaving a world to our children that will be void of any freedoms. Any freedoms, ladies and gentlemen. That is how serious this is. So while we're watching videos on we're going to war with Ukraine or going to war with Russia or what if China invades Taiwan and all of this stuff, they're working on this in the background. That way, when it's time for them to roll it out, because the people will ask for it. And it's not something that I just think may happen. It's something that I think will happen. Because the people, for the most part, in this country and many other countries are on the first rung of the ladder just trying to survive. And when this government crashes the market, which they will, because it is their last, it is their last play. They know that the people don't want to go to war. They know we don't want to go to war. And they know that this narrative that they have is not working. It's failing. This health crisis narrative that they've been playing for the last couple of years, it is failing. They can only take us to war, or they can crash the market. They can also come out with another bug that is extremely toxic and dangerous. They can do that, and they have the ability to do that. Will they? I don't know if they'll do that, ladies and gentlemen, but that is a possibility. But I think that they would instead crash the market. Why? Look at how great it worked in 1929. They study history also. Look at how great crashing the market worked in 1929. Not only did it give them a war that they wanted, but it also pretty much enslaved the people. People were willing to do anything back then just to be able to feed their children, their family, to keep their homes, where most of them lost everything. And it took 26, 30 years before whoever was vested in the market to actually recoup just what they vested in it when it crashed in, I think it was September of 1929, if I'm not wrong. It worked great back then, ladies and gentlemen. So you have to prepare yourself for this. In my opinion, it's not necessarily war that we have to prepare for, but for this type of war, this type of warfare. They've done it to other countries. This country has used economic warfare on other countries. Read the book Confessions of an Economic Hitman by John Perkins. And ladies and gentlemen, that is what they're going to do to us. I believe they've been using economic warfare on us here in the United States by their policies. Why do you think they're so afraid of cryptocurrencies? People say cryptocurrencies are a big Ponzi scheme. What do you think the US dollar is? It's not even real money. At least with cryptocurrencies, you have a choice. And I'm not promoting cryptocurrencies or anything like that. But I do know that those people that kept getting their money blocked to go to the truckers were able to send them cryptos. I do know that. And the government wasn't able to stop them. They may be able to harass people, but they can't stop that. Why do you think it is that they hate gold and silver so much? Why? Because gold and silver is real money. I'm not telling you to go out there and buy gold and silver. This is a channel that concentrates on preparedness. But be prepared. Let your gold and silver be a full pantry. Let your gold and silver be a good form of self-defense. Let your gold and silver be a good water filter. Let your gold and silver be community. Because ladies and gentlemen, I don't see any way out of this. I don't see how the government can escape this, because it's going to be extremely painful no matter what. No matter what direction we go, either we take the righteous direction and do the right thing, or we take the direction that the government wants to push us into and they do the wrong thing onto us. It's going to be extremely painful and many people will perish. We've entered into a time where we are going to have what is a resource issue. We are going to have a problem with resources because we have borrowed so much labor from the future that there's absolutely no way that we can repay that labor without crashing the system. And when the system crashes, it is you, it is me, it is the average person on the streets that is going to pay for it. These criminals up in Washington and all other capitals that have governance over their people, these criminals, they will still be fed. They will still have chauffeurs. They will still be able to go to concerts. They will still be able to do all of those same things that they're doing now that they've told us we can't do for the last couple of years. I don't watch the Super Bowl, but I did see a couple of tweets and stuff like that on YouTube, from people tweeting and putting it on a YouTube channel that showed the hypocrisy of the elite. Because that is exactly what they consider themselves, ladies and gentlemen. They consider themselves the elite. They are elite over us. They are our rulers. That is how they see themselves in respect to us, the common folk, who just want to be left alone. We want to be left alone, but they can't do that. Why is that, ladies and gentlemen? Because their currency, their dollar, or whatever currency you want to put in that place, their currency is backed by our labor. And when they can no longer steal any more of our labor, they have to change the system. And that's what they're going to do. Once they get that CBDC, and you don't have that thing in your arm that they want you to put in your arm, guess who's not getting paid next week? Guess who can't go to the supermarket? And that's another thing. With all of this technology that's taking over the world, I see one day where supermarkets will be humanless. There will be people in the background taking care of the robots who put the food on the shelves. And you're going to walk into that supermarket where there's going to be no human beings. You're going to pick all of your groceries and you're going to scan a register to pay for it. And guess what? If there's not enough credits in that little digital wallet that the Federal Reserve gives you, there's not going to be anyone there to feel sorry for you. You'll be on your own. They want to change the fabric of society in a way that they will be in complete control over 100% of our lives. Is that the world that you want to live in? Well, what do we do, AP? You prepare as best as you can. You get out of the system as much as you can, wherever you can. I myself am still part of the system. We all are. But get out of it as much as you can. Learn to rely less and less on those infrastructures that you depend on. So prep as much as you can and just continuously get ready. Continuously keep prepping those things that you know you will need, because those things will give you strength. When the government says you can't do this or you can't do that or you can't buy this or buy that, you're like, hey, I'm good. I got a year's worth. Let's see who's going to win that war, ladies and gentlemen. When millions of Americans say, I don't care. I'm prepped for the next year or two or even more, which is even better. I don't care. I know how to hunt. I know how to get my own water. I've got my antibiotics that I can take if you don't let me go to the hospital because my little digital pass won't allow me because I want to govern my own body. That is how we win, ladies and gentlemen. Unfortunately, I believe that one day in this country, the United States of America, I believe that there will be another hot war. In a hot war, I mean by an actual kinetic war that takes place here. Because the ideology that has been installed or instilled in the younger population, that ideology, ladies and gentlemen, is very difficult to erase. And it may take a generation or two for that ideology to start to fade away. But it is so strong now where people want the government to take care of them that the government will take advantage of every single opportunity it has to encroach more and more on our freedoms. And in the end, we will be even more slaves than what we are now. This has gone on way too long. I just wanted to talk to you about this, ladies and gentlemen, because not many are talking about how horrific this CBDC is going to be. And I do believe that they are going to come out with a CBDC. Having said that, thank you very much. Remember to be good to each other. When good people do good things happen. Remember to reach one, teach one, and repeat. If we all did this, the world would be a better place, and you know that it will be a better place. Many blessings to all of you and your families. I'm Alaska Prepper. I am out.